Welcome back to the deep dive. So if you're feeling stuck, in that loop of endless meetings, maybe staring at the clock and just feeling this really deep urge to hit the eject button on the old 9 to 5. Well, you're definitely in the right place today. Yeah, the goal we keep seeing, it's pretty universal, right? Launching your own thing, getting some real independence. But the big hang up is always, fear. Paralyzing. Scared to quit, scared to start something new, terrified of failing, running out of cash. Just where do you even begin?
Right.
So our mission today really is to pull out these 5 core steps from this guide we looked at, give you a practical roadmap, how to make that jump to entrepreneurship without completely losing your mind or your savings.
Exactly. And what I like about this material is that it really throws cold water on that whole take a wild leap of faith idea. It's all about strategy, planning, quitting without a plan. The source is blunt. It's not brave. It's just bad planning. So we're focusing on building a deliberate runway. Plan smart, move wisely. That's the idea. Minimize the risk. All right, let's dig into this blueprint then, moving from just dreaming about it to actually, doing it. And interestingly, it doesn't start with money. It starts inside your head. Right. Step 1, get really clear on your why. This is like the bedrock. You absolutely have to ask yourself why you're doing this. Is it genuinely about chasing, freedom, passion, seeing a real gap in the market?
Or is it just running away from something, like a boss you can't stand, or just the grind?
Precisely. And that distinction, it's critical. Because if you're just running from frustration, well, that motivation's pretty thin.
It won't last, will it?
No way.
Yeah.
The first big challenge hits, and trust me, it will hit maybe your first 2 months have 0 sales or some logistical mess. If your only fuel was annoyance, poof, it's gone. The stress of starting a business is, it's significant. If that why isn't solid, you'll just bounce right back to the perceived safety of that regular paycheck.
So the guide says, don't just think about it. Write it down. Define what success actually looks like for you outside that corporate structure. Make it your anchor, your filter for decisions.
Exactly. It's your fuel.
Yeah.
Okay. So once that internal compass is set, the guide immediately shifts focus to, the real world, delivering actual value.
Right.
Which brings us right to step 2, build your skills.
Right.
This is about making sure you've actually got something people will pay for. You don't need the world's most perfect business plan up front, maybe, but you do need to know how to deliver something specific, something valuable.
And the material gets really practical here. It's not just be good at stuff. It's about competence in the things that actually bring in money. Like if you're launching, say, a clothing line, you personally need to understand production, quality, how to talk about your brand, the nuts and bolts.
And if it's digital, which, let's face it, is where a lot of people start now, maybe a service or a course, then you have to get your head around the core functions. Marketing, sales, actually dealing with customers. You can't just outsource that stuff from day one. Not really. You need to understand it first.
So you can actually judge if someone else is doing a good job later on.
Exactly. The bottom line for this skill building phase is simple, really. Be so good people trust you with their money. Again and again. Makes sense.
Until you can solve a real problem for someone with a skill they value, your business isn't viable, period. Okay, solid foundation laid. Now we're moving into the actual transition strategy, the bridge, kind of, from employee to owner. This is where the planning meets reality testing. Step 3 is pretty firm. Start as a side hustle. The instruction is crystal clear. Do not quit yet.
Right.
This side hustle phase is just critical. It lets you test your idea in the real world, find those first crucial customers, and importantly, start bringing in some income, all while your main job pays the bills.
So you're de-risking the whole concept using your employer's salary, essentially. You got it. Let the salary fund the hustle's early days, not the stress of the hustle tanking your ability to pay rent. Okay, but the big question everyone asks is, how long do I do this? When do I know it's working well enough to actually, think about quitting? The source gives a number, doesn't it? It does. A clear metric. You can really only start planning your exit seriously once that side hustle is consistently bringing in at least 50 to 70% of your current salary.
50 to 70%.
That figure proves there's real demand that people will pay. And it means when you do finally leave your job, you're immediately replacing a big chunk of your income. It softens the landing.
That percentage, it feels significant, but let's clarify, is that 50, 70% of revenue, like total cash coming in, or is it profit after you've paid the side hustle's costs? Because that's a huge difference for budgeting. Great question. And the implication is very clear. It has to be based on consistent, repeatable profit, money that's actually available to you, like a replacement salary.
Oh. So if your side gig brings in $5,000 revenue, but has $3,000 in costs, well, your replacement income is only $2,000. You absolutely have to track the profit consistently. That's what validates the model.
Got it. Revenue is vanity. Profit is sanity, as they say.
Okay, so once you hit that validation point with the profit, step 4 kicks in. This is the safety net. Create a financial cushion. Yep. And this is where discipline really comes in. The number here is like a line in the sand. Save at least 6 months worth of living expenses before you hand in your notice.
6 months. Wow.
Non-negotiable, according to this guide. For a smart exit, anyway.
That's a heavy lift, though, especially if someone's already feeling stretched thin financially or just overworked trying to run the side hustle. What does the source suggest for making that goal feel less impossible? Like, what can you do today?
Yeah, it acknowledges it's tough. Its stress is making immediate, maybe even painful, cuts to anything discretionary. Luxuries, eating out often, subscriptions you barely use.
Okay. It suggests setting up a totally separate bank account, maybe call it your runway fund just to make it tangible. And then, yeah, taking a hard look at the big 3 expenses. Housing, transport, food, where can you trim? Even small things like packing lunches or canceling a couple of streaming services, they add up when you're laser focused on that 6-month target. Makes sense.
But why 6 months specifically? What's the strategic thinking there?
Because businesses just don't blow up overnight. That's a myth.
Right.
They take time, especially in that first year. Things go wrong. You need to pivot. That 6-month cushion isn't just about survival. It's about having the time to make smart changes. If your first marketing plan bombs after 2 months, you need that extra 4 months of breathing room to figure out new pricing, maybe target a different customer or fix a structural issue without the absolute panic of how am I paying rent next month breathing down your neck.
It buys you clarity, freedom to think strategically, not desperately. It's exactly freedom to focus on growth. Okay, smart. So we've got the why, built the skills, tested the idea with side hustle, banked the cash cushion. Now, the final stage, actually leaving, step 5, plan your exit. And the language here in the source is really strong. It basically says quitting without a proper plan isn't brave. It's, well, it calls it suicide.
Whoa.
Yeah, strong stuff. But the point is, you owe it to your future business and honestly just professional courtesy to handle the exit responsibly.
So beyond just firing off a resignation email, what does that practical exit plan involve?
Well, the basics are setting a firm date well ahead of time, wrapping up your key projects properly, creating handover notes so you don't leave people in the lurch.
Standard stuff.
Yeah. But the Force also highlights 2 really smart pre-exit moves people often miss. First, make sure any intellectual property for your side hustle is clearly yours, legally separate. Avoid any messy conflicts later. Second, quietly check if your current company might actually hire you back short-term as a contractor or consultant, just to ease their transition, maybe finish a project part-time.
Ah, that's clever. Secure some immediate income for the new business right out of the gate.
Exactly. It could really smooth that initial income drop. So once you've made that clean professional break, the focus shifts entirely to the first 90 days of being your own boss.
Right. What's the priority then? The guide boils it down to 3 things: growth, consistency, and visibility. You're not juggling anymore. Your full-time job now is scaling what you validated, making sure your output, your service, whatever it is reliable and consistent, and seriously ramping up efforts to get noticed. Marketing becomes huge. Growth, consistency, visibility, your new mantra. Okay, that covers the 5 steps. But there's also a really interesting bonus tip, not about money or skills, but about environment.
Yeah, this one's crucial for like long-term sanity. It's about community. Starting a business is lonely, seriously lonely sometimes. The guide hammers home the need. Surround yourself with other people who get it, other entrepreneurs.
Because your friend's still punching the clock. They mean well, but they probably can't really relate when you're freaking out about a supplier or celebrating a tiny win, right?
Exactly. That $50 sale feels huge to you, maybe confusing to them. Or that unexpected tax bill. They just don't live that reality. Isolation is dangerous when stress is high.
So how do you find this community? Actively seek it out. Join business groups, online or local. Go to industry events, even virtual ones. Find mentors. Learn from people who are already doing what you want to do. It circles back to that core message. Starting a business is hard, no doubt, but you know what? Staying stuck in a job you hate is hard too, just in a different, maybe slower, soul-crushing way.
That's a powerful point. Okay, so let's pull back for a second. Looking at this whole sequence, the why, the skills, the side hustle, the cushion, the planned exit, what's the big takeaway from this whole strategy? I think what stands out is how engineered it is. It's a structured path towards independence. Yeah. It's not about luck or some magical moment. It's about systematically reducing risk through deliberate sequential steps.
Yeah.
You build a plane first with skills, test the engines with a side hustle, fill the reserve fuel tanks with the cushion, and then you execute a controlled takeoff with a planned exit. It makes the whole leap feel much less like a leap and more like a well-managed transition.
It definitely feels more actionable, less terrifying when laid out like that. Deliberate planning, not just blind faith.
Right. And we always focus on the obvious risk, don't we?
Yeah.
The financial risk of losing that steady paycheck. It's real.
For sure.
But here's the final thought, maybe something for you to chew on. If you follow these steps, that period of maximum financial vulnerability is actually pretty defined, isn't it? It's basically those 6 months your cushion covers. Now, compare that finite period of planned stress, navigating those first 6 months with a plan and a buffer. Compare that to the hidden cost of not leaving. The cost of staying stuck, maybe for years, feeling frustrated, unfulfilled, that ongoing, potentially indefinite stress. How do those two weigh up?
That's a really interesting trade-off to consider. The known planned stress versus the unknown ongoing kind.
Exactly. Which stress are you choosing?
Something to think about on the commute, maybe. All right, go forth and plan smart. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive.
Subscribe and hit the like button for more deep dive like this. Tell us what you think in the comment section.